Welcome. We're going to talk about stories. And we've all loved stories ever since we were little bitty kids. All right, adults, kids, whatever, little bitty kids. Hopefully, people told you lots of stories. It's part of our human thing. We love stories. And your yearbook should be reflecting a lot of that. And being harsh here now, okay? 25 or more years of doing yearbooking, most yearbook groups don't do a very good job of telling stories. In fact, a lot of them don't even tell stories. It's pretty much just pictures slapped on pages. And we're missing a golden opportunity here because that's not what our audience wants. They want a little bit more. They want stories. Now, as long as I've been doing this, when I've had a chance to work with, yearbook stabs and yearbook groups and so on, oftentimes I take a copy of their prior year's book and I hold it up and I simply say, okay, guys, tell me what I'm holding. And invariably, the first answer is, well, it's a yearbook. Okay, yeah, I get it. What other kind of book is it? And I try to get to, especially kids, to kind of think, well, it's a record book, it's a history book, it's a picture book, and then get some other answers. I'm not lying here, I'm not exaggerating. In 25 years of doing this, I could probably count it on one hand the number of kids who said, oh, that's a storybook. Yes, it is. Whenever they say that, I get a big smile. That's exactly what your yearbook should be, my opinion. It needs to be a storybook, stories about people, not just events, not just, groups like teams and stuff like that. It's the story of people. And another thing I've mentioned for many, many, many years is the fact that every single person in your school has some story or stories to tell. All of them. Everybody does. And even if it's the shyest, quietest person in school, I mean, they never make a peep, you never hear from them. That person has stories to tell. And down deep in here, they really want their stories told. They want to be remembered. It may not be some big giant story, it might be some little tiny thing, but it's a way to remember them by telling their story. And guys, this is not difficult to do. I've got a friend who uses this line often: tell stories that no one else is telling. Now, think about your yearbook. In most cases, same as last year, same as the year before that, same as the year before that. Yep, I mean, the pictures change out and so on, but it's pretty much the same thing over and over. There are fresh, unique stories every single school year. Think about it. No two school years are alike. They're different. I mean, sometimes incredibly different. And so if your yearbook essentially just looks the same every year, we're missing that uniqueness. And your readers, your eventual yearbook customers, when you hand them a book, they want to read stories. They want to read stories about themselves. They want to read stories about their friends, or maybe I was on the baseball team, or I was part of this club, and so on. Well, what did we do in those things, and so on? They want to read those stories, and that is where your major emphasis really needs to be. Now, a lot of folks, especially students, kind of get hung up on this. Like, okay, tell stories. Oh man, that sounds like a lot of writing. Oh, that's a headache. Oh, and they just shut down at that point. No, all right, no. This is not hard to do. Telling stories is actually very easy if you take a tip from an advisor, a friend of mine, one of the top yearbook advisors in the country, I would say. And he would say that, okay, if you're going to tell stories, use something called authentic voice. What does that mean? That means you go to talk to somebody about a story, something they did, something that happened to them, or something like that. Hopefully, maybe you got a recording device, all right? You're recording all this thing. When you go to relate that person's story, instead of rewriting it, which takes work, why not just use their words? And it could just be a quote, a 2 or 3 or 4 line quote. Use the person's own words to tell their story. The fancy term for that is authentic voice, and anybody can do that. All you have to do is go talk to people, ask them a couple of questions or a few questions, have that recorder running, get their words, and then use their own words to tell that story. Again, the yearbook is about people, it's not about topics. And yet, most yearbooks, that's pretty much what it is. You got football team, All right, you got pictures of the football team, some action photos, and so on. Maybe have a little write up. Here's what the team did. Okay, that's great. What about the guys on the team? This guy, something amazing he did. This guy set a record of some kind. This guy is going to such and such college after high school, and so on. Those are stories of people, not just a big glob group or a club or a class, and so on. The people in the group, the people in the club, the people in the class. How many stories about them can you gather and then put on your pages? Because again, eventually when your book comes out, that's what people want to see. They want to read about themselves. They want to read about other people, not necessarily groups. All right. Now, here's something to keep in mind. Storytelling is very important. And your yearbook comes out whenever it comes out, May, June, summer, whenever it is. And so your yearbook buyers are kind of waiting around. Hopefully they made a purchase. They're kind of waiting for the book to come out, waiting, waiting, waiting. Meanwhile, all these stories are happening. Why not tell stories during the school year? And this day and age, of course, it is so easy to do that. Social media, big one there. Also, if your school has video boards, and most schools I think do now, whoever programs that thing, puts messages up there. I don't know, the lunch menu, some big event coming up this week or something like that. Whoever programs that thing always wants fresh material. Why not put some of your yearbook stories up on those video boards for people to enjoy now and then later on when your book eventually comes out? Number of years ago, I came up with an idea that I call a caption image. We're going to show you an example here. A caption image is very simple to make. It's a picture and a caption. And you can do this with a software program like InDesign. You can do this if your yearbook company, gives you an online program to make your pages. You should be able to use that to just take an empty page, put a picture and a caption down next to it, save that page as an image file, probably a JPEG file. All right, then you've got this picture file. Hopefully you know how to crop on a computer and so on, or maybe on your phone. And you crop it down to just around the picture and the caption, and then resave that as an image, probably, kind of rectangular like a television set, and then deliver that to your video board person or put it up on social media. Now, when that thing shows up, I've got a picture and I've got some details to go along, a couple of lines and so on, telling the story of what's going on in that picture. It's a simple thing to do. And if you're gathering that information anyway, I hope you are, pictures, information, and so on, put it into what I call a caption image. You could be easily telling stories all year long. And trust me, your audience will love it, especially when they see their face pop up maybe on social media or the video screen. Like, oh, that's me. That's my story right there. That person's been remembered. And that, especially these days, is like gold. And the yearbook staff can deliver that gold. All right, let's mention something else. And this gets overlooked. Now, this might be primarily a high school, college thing. Um, Young people have opinions about everything, about news, about sports, about controversies, about things that are international. There are stories there. If you report them carefully, keep in mind, years from now, people are going to look at the yearbook like, what was that year like? What was going on that year? Well, you've got the four walls of your school building. Okay, what happened that year? But there were things happening outside your school building. People had opinions about those. Those are stories too. And so give some consideration if you're looking to add some fresh stuff to your yearbook and you've never done this before. Could be a page, a spread, whatever. Student opinions about this news story or this election or something else. Could be something in your town or something in your region. Those are stories there. Some people feel passionately about that stuff. Why not cover that in the yearbook? That is all about telling stories. Especially for students watching this, guys, remember, yearbooks last for life. I was doing some digging recently and came across this yearbook from a school. All right, you can see the year 1960. All right, do the math. That's got some years on that book, right? But there are interesting stories in that yearbook from 1959-60. If I want to know what happened at that school in that particular year, where am I going to go? Not to a website. I'm going to go right here. A book hopefully filled with lots of student and people stories. So make it about stories this year, not just about topics or events or groups. There are people involved in all of those. Tell as many people or student stories as you can. Now let's do a quick activity to wrap this one up. Now maybe you're already into stories, which is great. I'm going to assume then you have a stories list. Like here's the things we want to cover in the book this year. Great. Go over your list right now. What's missing? Maybe something happened recently. We got to add that to the list. Or something got canceled. All right, let's take that one off the list. Go over your existing story list of what you want to cover in the book this year. And if you've never really delved into this, let's make a story list. Again, all those different people, again, big stories, maybe cover a lot of people, a sports championship or something. Then there are little stories, might just be about one person, but it's an interesting story. Why not find a way to include that in the yearbook? Start to make a stories list. Yeah, you'll be changing it during the school year. Things happen. Make that story list, and then hopefully you're checking off a lot of these as the year goes on. Got that one, that one, that one, that one. When your yearbook comes out, people are going to be thrilled to read stories, again, hopefully about themselves, but definitely about other people they know. And then they're going to take that yearbook home and they're going to keep it for the rest of their life. A really, really great story book. Let's see what you can do. Thanks for watching.